want a garden so I can grow, and you can only go so far on your own.
Hi there, we are at the Welsh Permaculture Festival and I'm delighted that I'm with Manda Scott this morning. And I wanted to ask you, Manda, you talk to so many people in a year and you travel a lot and meet people. What at the moment is brewing in you, is developing you in you as part of, you know, an ongoing, evolving, growing vision?
Okay, so the answer to that's probably different to this time last week. I've just come back from an animist gathering where we were talking about systemic change, but in an animist perspective. So I haven't really processed all of that. When I got there, what's really landing for me at the moment is that the best possible thing that we could leave to future generations are the social technologies to make communities of place genuinely work. And that's hard. Partly it's hard because what we really need is to do the inner work. We need to heal. We need to heal our individual, collective and ancestral chaos of 10,000 years of trauma culture. And there is no time left to pass that to the next generation. We need to be healing it now. And one of the things that really landed for me recently was hearing Dick Schwartz, who founded Internal Family Systems Therapy, pointing out the obvious truth that almost all of us, almost all of the time, are walking around in a state of internal civil war. And just acknowledging that, just letting that be how we all are in our culture, not in indigenous cultures, the healed ones, but in our culture. And then how do I find the tools to declare at least a truce inside, and then to begin to get all the parts of myself talking to each other, and maybe to create enough peace inside that I can connect with other people, and when I'm triggered I can see it and take a step back, and then we can begin to build communities that work, I think. So that still, even after many days of really connecting with the land and with other people and feeling a community building, because in that space most of the people had done a lot of personal work. And how do we scale that?
How do we scale that? I mean, that's
the
something
big
I've been
question.
working on.
Yeah.
I was really conscious of this at when they were celebrating the end of the war in the Far East, because my father was a Gurkha and my mother was in the Red Cross, and they were processing the released prisoners of war from the Japanese camps, and it was like, does this person need hospital? Do they need psychiatric care, or can they just be demolished?
But the psychiatric care that was available then
was nothing.
Yeah. We didn't have the technologies.
And that was like the ultimate trauma, and my parents were traumatized, and so they brought their children up in the 50s in a way that reflected that trauma.
Right.
And I went through a whole process where it was like, right, because I have 2 children,
Right.
the trauma stops
Yes,
here.
how do I not pass that down
How
the line?
do I not pass down that lack of nurture, that trauma, and then the trauma of my own experiences in life? How do I not pass that on to my children and then the next generation?
How do you create
How do you
a
stop?
shield wall that still allows healing and empathy and
Yeah.
compassion to flow through,
Yeah.
but doesn't
Yeah.
let the wounding flow through?
Exactly. And how do you know you're triggered and then step right out and say, hey, I need to go away and deal with that?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
yes.
sometimes you
40
can't do it
breaths.
on the spot.
No. But
You-
even being able to say, I had an example yesterday with someone I'm very close to, and we just got to hang on. This is a triggered conversation. We both just need to step back from this and breathe, take the time that we need, and then come back together and see where we are. But, you know, we've been doing this work together for decades, and it's still hard. And so how do we make it okay to do that in the wider community? And then what's the progression on from that? And I don't know the answers to this.
I
But
think
finding
that,
those
I
are
would
key.
say there's two things that we can do. First of all, we have to be able to talk about this without any
Right.
sense of shame or
To
embarrassment or
celebrate it,
shyness,
actually.
and actually say,
Yes.
"Hey, yes, I'm actually doing this,"
okay.
and it's very very creative and very empowering.
Right.
So I think that's the
Yes,
first
yes,
step, and
well done.
just come out with
Yes,
it.
Yes, okay.
And then secondly, I think we have to see ourselves as nodes in a system. And the more nodes that are awakened to this and sharing it and practicing it, the more we'll strengthen the web.
Okay.
And
Right, that
I
makes
think
a lot of
that's the
sense.
only way I can see it becoming sort of part of our culture. And I think, you know, looking at permaculture, because we're here.
We're here. Yes, let's do that. In this amazing and beautiful space where
incredible
everything is happening with
space.
all the people outside.
Yes.
Yes.
So you know, Luby McNamara's brought so much people care thinking and into permaculture, but I think we've got to explore these other levels of permaculture. And we were having a conversation before we started filming about asking permission of the land before you design, before you even observe.
Yes.
Like, why am I here, and what do you need from me?
Yes.
And-
And letting that be authentic.
Yes.
Because there's a lot it's very easy to project. What would I like you to want from
Exactly.
me? How do we get down into layers that are grounded and authentic? And we can only do that by testing, I think. And it's hard to test the land, so we have to work with other people in the ways of connecting and healing, so that we can find people that we trust and find feedback loops that help us to understand what it feels like when I'm in the place from which authenticity arises.
So can we expand on that a little bit, so that anyone listening
Yes,
to
it'd be
this
nice to get it.
perhaps can understand what those feedback loops look like, and how to get that
Yeah, how to
in
find it.
relationship, and in it's actually, you're talking about community there, where
Yes.
you have a community of like minds,
Yes.
and you test out your sense of
So-
response
And
with
here
them.
we're working, so we're accepting the concept of citadel mind, where what happens in the bony cavity of my skull is all mine, and nothing comes in and nothing comes out except through reductive five senses. We have to let go of that. We have to accept that everything is very porous, and that how I move outside of space and time is something that I can track. So I am working a lot with animal communication, and I'm working a lot with mediumship. Not particularly because either of those is my vocation, but because each of them allows me to have direct feedback from people. If I talk to somebody's donkey, as I did the other day, and the donkey says, my right hand foot is really hurting, I need you to have a look at it. And donkey said, my foot's very hot, my coronary band is sore. And actually when the person looked at it, neither of these was the case, but there was a lot of, in veterinary terms, she said crepitus, which is basically joint crunching in that right hand fetlock. And she had looked at it because I'd said foot and coronary band. And she did some basic, she's a body worker, she did some body work on donkey's foot, and he trotted back in from the field. And I take that as a win. And so now I know what, when I'm talking to Donkey, who is a donkey called Donkey, he's amazing, I know what it feels like when he's saying something authentic. And if I'm doing mediumship with people, again, if I have a feeling of, goodness, I don't know, a man in battle in a place that I don't know, and the smells are things that I don't understand, and he's absolutely terrified, and I'm feeling the terror, and he's hit, and then he goes and dies in a tent, and I'm talking to someone whose English is very poor, and I have no idea about this, and it turns out that her grandfather vanished in a particular war that I didn't even know happened, and they didn't know how he died, I can recognize that feeling. And then if I talk to the land and I sink into a similar place and something comes up, particularly if it's not something I'm expecting, if it feels like what I wanted the land to say, then I will have to check that. But if it's something completely other and strange and takes me to the edges of myself, and I can practice it, so it says, I don't know, plant these things here, and I try it and it works, then I can trust that and go back. So test it. Don't let our projections take over, because I think one of the things that has got us to where we are is our sense that as humans we, first of all, can know all the answers, and second, our responsibility is to know all the answers. And in my world that's not the case. I am a node in the web of life, and the web knows the answers. And my job is to offer myself every morning in service to the web, and then be open to what that means. And if it means being here and talking to you, that's absolutely wonderful. If it means doing things that I think, no, really? You want me to do that? Are you sure? Then I do it and I test it. And if the world feels like it's more fluid and flowing, and I'm more grounded and everything is more flourishing, then I can do it again. If it was like, whoa, that really wasn't a good idea, then I store that and I test it. So we have to do these iterative loops. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And it is about checking in with your authenticity and projections, and knowing that part of yourself that has those needs, that needs to fill the holes, and finding ways of healing those holes.
Yes, and letting those parts.
Yeah.
Because it's another thing I've learned through doing IFS, which I think is one of those technologies that's newly arisen, self-technologies, that's absolutely transformative, is it's never about the trigger. The part that gets triggered, whatever triggered it, it's responding to a perceived threat that comes from a long way back, that may not be in my personal life, it may be in my ancestral life. But it's my job to heal it, and it's my job to step back and go, okay, it probably isn't about the trigger, there's probably something deeper. And it's my work to work with the deeper until whatever that is doesn't need a defensive response anymore, and that part that is very fast and very active and very capable of creating something that gets me out of what it perceives as danger. If I can have the creativity of that coming into my life, it's amazing. Then my system begins to work in more harmony, and I have access to that speed and creativity and magic. And it's not having to be constantly vigilant. It takes a lot of responsibility and changes it. And these things are accessible now in ways they weren't to us
Even
when we were
20
younger.
years ago.
Even 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5.
I think IFS is now at the state where you have to enter a lottery to get the training, because they have so many people wanting to do it, because it's not take my parts and make them behave, which is, I have to say, what, 40 years in my therapy, that's what I assumed I was doing. Either make it not do that thing, or make it domesticate it.
Yeah.
And probably I was misunderstanding my therapists. But having a model that goes, no, these parts are doing what they feel they need to do. And if I can free up that amazing creativity to be in harmony with my system, my whole system works better. And the other parts that are still in defensive or threat mode can see that this is a possibility and can learn to trust the process. So finding processes that are genuine and authentic, that we can trust, feels really central to a permaculture of our culture, which I think is what we're all here to do.
I do think so. And once those pieces begin to work, then the land relationship and all the growing side and the restoration and healing in the physical world comes with such a wonderful abundance.
Yes.
But somehow we have to do this too. We can't just ignore it. We have to do both.
Yes. And Joanna Macy said something which I'm not going to get the exact quote right, but it was something to the effect of, it's not either or. As we heal ourselves, we heal the web of life, and we heal the land, and as we heal the land and heal the web of life, we heal ourselves. And so it's a complex emergent process, which is fantastic, because then we can't predict where it goes.
Thank
and we don't
goodness.
Need to. Yeah, exactly.
Because then we have creativity.
Yeah, and then we just watch and celebrate. Now there's 150 people on the land at Edinburgh doing amazing things.
Yeah.
And each one will go back out to their communities and do more amazing things.
Yeah. So Thank you so much for talking to me today.
It's so great to see you. It really is. Thank you. And thank you to our camera person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.